Welcome back to Cyber Voices, coming to you from the tail end of CyberCon 2024. It's towards the end of day 3. I am joined by the award-winning I can't talk. That's how late in the conference we are. We'll leave that in. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm joined by the award-winning Jasmine Mccruden. Jasmine, hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to be in the presence of the ACER Volunteer of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
And we are joined, very lucky to be joined by, and I've had to pronounce your surname a few times to make sure I get it right. Peter Gigengack?
Wrong.
Oh.
Peter Gigengack.
Gigengack.
Like a jigsaw.
Yeah, Gigengack.
It's funny because right as I went to introduce you, I realized, crap, I did not ask him how to pronounce his surname before we turned the mic on.
That happened to me a few times yesterday, room hosting. It was very scary getting up there pronouncing someone's name wrong.
Yeah,
That's right. I was introduced as Peter G. My last
Peter,
name.
Peter G.
Peter G.
You could
Nice
own
ring
that.
to it.
You could definitely
Yeah.
own that. Well, Peter G. Joining us from the Western Australian government. So, Peter, it's day 3. We're at an end. I know you've just come from giving a talk. You're probably exhausted. You're probably tired. Probably ready to get on that red-eye flight back to Perth.
Correct.
But how has your ACER CyberCon been so far?
I've really loved it. Look, it's always good to come with the community and explore new ideas, meet new people, find new tech. And I guess it's not, as everyone says, a big piss up. It's really just an opportunity to learn and, I guess, explore things that we didn't have before this weekend or this week.
Exactly. I've only had one glass of wine the whole thing, so it is absolutely.
How do you do that?
Hey?
I can't hold myself back.
I need to, I've got a lot of podcasting to do.
Yes, dedicated.
So you're a bit of a veteran of CyberCon?
So this is my second year here.
Second year? Okay, that's a veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently it's a veteran. And it was a lot more comfortable this year, obviously knowing where to go. Very, a lot easier than some of the rookies on the block. So it was really, I was just navigating and everyone's like, where are you going? And I'm like, over here. What? Surely you know where to go, right?
Yeah.
You're at the map. It's really good.
And what's been the highlight of the conference for you then?
Oh, I think I've already captured it. But
Yeah.
look, I think meeting the people that I get to interact across Australia as part of my role is really very good to put names to faces. I'm in contact with so many people across Australia through both professional networking or my role. And so seeing them in person is a lot different than just seeing them in teams, having that interactivity, give them a high five. I don't think there's nothing that kind of beats that in-person feel. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, no, and we've been getting that from a lot of people coming in to do the pod with us. Is just, oh, how nice just to see everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. You know what? The first time I met you was this year at the Women in Security Awards, and you actually won an award. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Women in Security Women in Security Awards is different to AWSN, the Australian Women in Cyber Security Network.
Yeah.
They have many categories across the industry. And I won this year the Champion of Change. And I'm still trying to figure out what the change piece was, but I know, I guess, my background and I guess the thing that led me to that was the interactions that I've had through AWSN and the mentoring program. And so I've got a large, I guess, group of mentees across Australia that I love to support. And it's kind of enabled me to channel a bit of my, I guess, energy for uplifting others.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And thank you for carrying out such important work within the industry. It's really, really important to have people doing that kind of thing. I feel like everyone's won an award but me.
Yeah.
One day, next year.
Watch
next
this
year.
space.
Exactly.
Try level up.
I'm placing bets already.
And Peter, you've just come from giving a really interesting talk, quite a personal one, I believe, as well. The name of the talk is Digital Identity After Death, Helping Loved Ones Avoid Digital Forensics. Whoa, there's a lot in that. Can you tell us a little bit about what this talk is about?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it's more of a, as you said, personal story. So our family went through, I guess, elderly family relative. I'll just call him John, so I don't have to keep repeating that word.
Fair enough.
And they they, I guess, gave us a bit of a journey that we've experienced that I probably wouldn't wish upon many. So they passed away, and they left us with, I guess, a journey where we knew that their online habits were quite a bit mysterious to us. We had concerns around potentials of being scammed. They were in the elderly category, so they were quite vulnerable and susceptible to being scammed in this space.
Yeah.
And so really for us as a family, we were, I guess, navigating both grieving that they passed away, but they were really, I guess, we weren't left with anything that enabled us to handle their digital identity as well. So I guess my presentation was really kind of exploring it from our journey and where we started, but also going, well, look, I've experienced this. Here is now, I guess, some tools that people can, I guess, apply in their lives. If not, just make sure we have those conversations around, okay, well, how do we prepare ourselves when we pass away? What actions are we going to take to enable our family members to grieve in a way that they don't have to do digital forensics? Now, for my circumstance, we went through a journey where we had to go through everything. We had no passwords. We had no credentials. We had a few computers. We had to then kind of piece it all together. And so I went through to explore that and go, look, these are kind of the painstaking pieces that we had to do. It is avoidable though. And so it was really trying to, I guess, explore that topic, show the challenges I experienced through it, everything from mapping out, obviously, just accounts that we were never left with. Also trying to go through and go, well, try close off like banking things. Obviously, you go through in the physical world, you go to the banks, you say, yeah, I'm going to close off the accounts. I need to go through stop direct debits and things like that. Obviously, we had some concerns around this person not having a lot of transparency around those accounts. And so there was accounts that we ended up, I guess, trying to step through. Like, for instance, we go to something like PayPal where we've got direct debits that are linked to a card. We went through, I guess, made sure we were closing those off well before we could, I guess, feel any impacts. Obviously, if you've gone through, had a direct debit, that will obviously keep going until, well, you cancel it. It's challenging enough when you're alive to do it. So where we, I guess, explored it was we kind of had some prioritization of things that we wanted to look at. But again, we didn't have any of those. So we had to step through that, breaking through a number of barriers around, I guess, identification. Also keeping in mind that, look, we were doing this in the situation of family. As a family, you want to remember them for what they, I guess, the love that they gave to the family, the positive memories that you have collectively in that. So there's a real kind of putting on a different hat, like my normal role. Like, I am not a digital forensics expert, but having to, I guess, perform that in a corporate sense, it's already you feel a bit kind of uncomfortable having to investigate people through HR matters or similar.
Yeah.
There are obviously sometimes circumstances where people do pass away in the workplace. So you kind of feel a bit, I guess, mean or whatever around trying to close those off. But when it comes to a family member, really it was kind of going through that journey and trying to be really, I guess, mindful around what we had on our own hearts, the hearts of our family, and kind of being really kind of had to compartmentalize it a little bit. I think as cyber professionals, we always have to be really mindful around our sensitivities, what we do. And so in a way, having to navigate that through someone's passing away, obviously made it more complex, more challenging and confronting. So it was a real, I guess, balance on trying to navigate that, but also go, well, let's just make sure whatever we do, we're doing this for the family, protecting the memories as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned, John was quite elderly. You don't often associate a large digital footprint with maybe some of the more elderly members of our family. What was it that kind of made this why was it such a forensics journey?
So John was really active online.
Okay.
So quite an early adopter, loved their technology.
Yeah.
And then so they were very, I guess, vocal online. They were interacting with a lot of people. We were aware that there was a situation that they'd been in contact with someone from overseas that was maybe trying to get to Australia, and getting those kind of conversations, indications to the family that this was happening.
Yeah.
And so really we had some suspicions that something was going on, but we didn't really have that full picture. And so part of it was to, I guess, look through that through the lens of going, well, we want to understand what that was, just to minimum viable amount. So then we go, well, either we make sure you put a stop to it. Obviously, if we know the nature of scammers, then often not targeting one, they targeting multiple. So we saw as an opportunity, if we found evidence of that we could take that to the right authorities, and they can do the things that authorities do, kick down doors, those kind of things. So we were really wanting to make sure that if we did find that, we were very careful around making sure we had evidence collected if we needed to use it. Now, fortunately, we did not need to do that part. I wish we did. Would have been a bit more rewarding from a perspective of, okay, we've now enabled someone to take some action against this person. Now, that was really, I guess, the main real reason why we kind of more went down that pathway. Now, this person obviously did have that online presence and they were active. And so, as you said, not everyone at that elderly age also active. I flip that back, though, to, I guess, our lives. Most of us, we've got plenty of life on the runway, and we do have, obviously, those kind of pieces where we're going, look, we've got families, we've got other loved ones that we care about. Like, how do we make sure they are ready? So if something does happen now, a lot of our people are traveling over to come to this conference. And so, like, look, who knows, like, what could happen on that journey? So anything from, like, I've had an accident on a car or on the flight home, but obviously, like, anything for the worse as well. So we have those situations that will likely happen. Again, with, like, cyber incidents happen. It's about being prepared for those and making sure we've got a good plan, to say the least. And so I guess what this presentation is really trying to focus on is that preparedness. Making sure we leave our family with the tools, leave people with the ability that they could pick up the pieces if something happened. I guess hopefully as family members, they are not your adversary like we're trying to protect organizations with. And so hopefully I would encourage people to do is explore ways that they can make sure that they securely share, say, credentials with your loved ones. So then if they had to pick up the pieces, they would be able to at least go through and go, well, look, I've at least got something to start with, rather than going, I got to go through and talk to all these organizations that might close that off. We obviously have a lot more digital footprint than maybe some of those elderly.
Yeah. And you actually just came off the stage to this booth. Like, you just ran over, so you must be exhausted. But in your presentation, did you have anyone in the audience, like, ask any really good questions? Was there anyone that's been through this experience as well?
Yeah, there was a few questions there. One was obviously around, kind of thinking about more, we had some lawyers in the crowd, which I put my hat on. I am not a lawyer. And so I declaimed everything with, this is not legal advice. And like, it's really interesting kind of navigating, at least the jurisdictions all have their different mechanisms as well for this. So, but we had some really interesting questions around people that have actually come here as immigrated to Australia. And so they actually may be not just dealing with, I guess, how to navigate this in our jurisdiction, but maybe back home. And so they were kind of, I guess, giving questions and also comments around, like, their experiences. And it was really quite eye-opening. And from my perspective, like, and the real goal of that whole presentation was get people talking about it, raise awareness, get people thinking, so then they don't have to go through that really rubbish journey.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like in terms of your story, it sounds like there was some discoveries which were, I guess, a little hard, a little painful, but it almost sounds like your advice is a bit of a digital will of sorts.
In a way it is. And, like, look, we all joke, you go down to your stationery shop and it's got your little password book. But could you imagine how practical that would be in a situation with family?
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of like the same way you'd kind of prepare an organization with, like, that emergency access. This is that kind of emergency access because you don't know when you might need it.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening to this podcast that don't know what digital identity means, like, can you break that down for someone?
Yeah, sure. So when we have, I guess, we join an online service, let's think about Facebook as a social media platform. We would sign up with an account that creates, an identity for us. That might be linked by an email address. Again, that's an identity within the email platform. And so I guess that identity, should be linked to yourself. Hopefully you're the only ones with the credentials and not someone else. But obviously the piece is that over that course of your digital, journey, you'll be, I guess, leaving, evidence along the way, whether that's posts on social media, transactions through banking, your buying habits, who you interact with online. And so there's all those, aspects that, well, you've actually got a lot of data on you with each of those identities, each provider of that, whether it's a social media, whether it be an email provider, e-commerce, Netflix, PayPal, they're all going to kind of form a full picture of your identity. A lot of those being email, like tied together by an email address.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess there's so much opportunity and so much data that sits in these identities that over time, well, we just kind of assume that, hey, it's all there safe. Hopefully it is. And people are actually doing good things to make sure we protect that data itself. But I guess that forms, an outline of the behavior that you've done over the course of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us in our journey, we had to kind of almost unpick that piece of like a puzzle, almost like kind of reading someone's journal. So it didn't, as like kind of piecing it all together. So you could see the transactions, the interactions that were occurring that helped us kind of understand some things as well.
It's a whole new dimension, I guess, to tying up of affairs as well for a family member that's passed. I've had a similar experience in the last year. I very suddenly lost a sibling, very unexpected, and she was going through a divorce and all kinds of stuff, right? There was all kinds of online stuff we had to unpick. And it's actually really hard to get that access, right? Like you can't necessarily send a lawyer into a social media site or something like that and say, this person's passed away, you need to give up the password, because it just usually
doesn't happen.
These mechanisms probably don't exist, which is probably what got some of the lawyers in your talk interested.
That's right.
If I can hazard a guess. Yeah,
of course. And you, even just trying to close off banks there anyway, you've got to have a certain amount of evidence and prove who you are. Now, look, sometimes you may not have all that time on someone's account. If they pass away, like say, for instance, we want to close off and stop transactions or cancel direct debits, which are hard enough in real life, by at least having, some of those, mapped out and communicated within the family. Again, that hopefully they're not your adversary as well. Obviously, we've got things like domestic violence situations where obviously if you're sharing those with a partner that's obviously causing that harm, well, that's maybe not the right person to leave that with.
Yeah.
And so there's that piece to kind of, unpack as well. Like, who do you trust? And it's about making sure that you've got someone that isn't that adversary. We're trying to just make sure we can enable them to do that part once you pass away.
Yeah. It's really thought-provoking. And there's probably a lot of conversations that this might trigger amongst our listeners with families and loved ones, because you kind of made a point before. You alluded to the fact that life can change pretty quickly. I know personally, every time my partner gets in the car to go to work, it's always, I love you, please drive safe.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, is the main kind of advice here, and I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but is it maybe just start having the conversation with your loved ones around how you would, take care of this stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
And same way if you're going to donate an organ, right?
Yeah, that's right. You have that conversation, and it is quite an uncomfortable piece because you're having to come to terms with your own mortality and all that. But it would be, there's so much I've seen other family members navigate out of this really well because they actually prepared the family adequately for it.
Yeah.
And how do you have this conversation? How do you prepare for it?
Same way you probably got to go to a lawyer and go, oh, can you write me during power of attorney or similar?
Yeah.
And so the interesting part is that you really do need to navigate that with someone that's actually qualified to help, write that in a way that enables someone to do it.
Yeah.
I know obviously there's people do challenge wills and they do challenge those pieces as well with once people pass away or have to take actions on behalf of you.
Yeah.
So
I imagine it's like I was saying, the same way if you want to make sure that you're an organ donor, you would make sure that your partner knew that, even after the passing of my sister, I remember after going through the funeral process, I remember sort of telling my family, I'm like, if anything were ever happened to me, I want to, my partner knows me best. I want
Yeah.
them to organize the funeral plans. Like conversations like that, which are uncomfortable to have,
Yeah.
but also really important
I
to
remember
have.
when my dad sat me down and had that conversation. It was over a really nice dinner. And I
Yeah.
thought we were just going to talk about life. And he goes, so I brought you here to have this conversation. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to put you through any of the pain that I've had to go through. And that was really eye-opening. So yeah, we need to be having these conversations.
Yeah, and I've seen similar within our family. So they, like my parents, for instance, they are at the age where they want to go travel. Same thing with my partner's parents. And they sit down and go, oh, let's have that talk. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And it is really quite uncomfortable because, like, yeah, you're like, oh, well, I've got memories. I don't want to have to navigate that. Please don't do that now.
Yeah.
But obviously, we know that life comes with death, I suppose, and it will occur. It's almost a matter of when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you so much for bringing your story and being so vulnerable with everyone here at the conference and with us here on the podcast today. And hope you enjoy what's left of day 3. And thank you for sharing your voice with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.